guys, it's Francine Simone, and I am here with the YA Book Hype breakdown of Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is book 1 and the Infernal Devices, and book 1 on my journey to hell. So before I get into the actual review, I just want to say that this put me in such a reading slump. I couldn't read anything else for literally like 3 weeks. I just wanted to finish it. I was already like invested time and energy and page length into it, and I was like, I need to get a book review out, and I already told you guys I was going to do this one. I can't just quit like a ninny, and oh my god, but I did it. I did it. So this is one of the biggest hype books, so I knew I had to get through this because it's Cassandra Clare. Like, who doesn't know Cassandra Clare? She is both famous and infamous for so many different things. So let me just get on into it. Let's start off with characters. So I do want to preface this with saying that if you've read The Mortal Instruments, which I did a long time ago, the main 3 characters in this are kind of like the main 3 characters in The Mortal Instruments. We've got Tessa Gray, who sometimes while writing this review up, I kept calling her Clary. Ha! In this book, Tessa is only as good as the books that she reads, and that's not a good thing. She really has no smarts of her own, and she is so frustratingly bland. And to top it off, she's a damsel in distress, even when she thinks she's being useful. Will. He's an asshole, and he's so sad and has such a crippling past that he hands out cards with giant fuck yous on them for his own personal pity party. Jem. He's nice. Jessamine's actually the most tragic character in the story because she is made so dislikable and even a bit out of character sometimes just so Tessa can have no dynamic competition as a female. I don't really understand why in books where there's more than one female and lots of dudes and there's supposed to be love that all girls seem to be in competition with each other, but this is definitely one of them. And it actually made me question the character in a wrong way in some instances. Everyone else in this book seemed a bit clueless, and they were over the top in either stupidity, trust, hate, or overall villainy. Except for De Quincey. He was the only one to actually see the Shadowhunters for who they were, and he called them out for it, so yay! I actually took down a quote from De Quincey, which I thought should have been the backbone of this story, but it just fell short and it missed the mark, and I'm so sad, but here's the quote. Equal? You don't know what that means. You cannot let go of your own conviction, let go of your belief in your inherent superiority for long enough to even consider what it would mean. In context, it was really great quote, and I thought that was going to be the backbone for the rest of the novel, and it wasn't. So overall, I give character authenticity a 4 out of 5. They were unlikable, but true to themselves, except for in setup. It seemed like a lot of the people were put into place to fit the story, not that the people shaped the story, if that makes any sense. So let's talk about plot. Of course, this kind of story is going to have a significant external plot, so let's talk about the internal first, since Tessa is our main character, and then we'll get into the external. So Tessa is obviously not human. She has special powers. It's her whole gimmick in this entire book, and I never quite understood why she felt like she was a monster all of a sudden, because we were never allowed to see her have that kind of pivotal moment where she realizes that her true nature takes over more than her humanity. And it's such an interesting internal struggle because I thought that was going to be like the external struggle of maybe the whole series, this Shadowhunters deemingly good, but maybe it's their own superiority that makes them so good because it's their law that they enact on everyone else, but who says that they should be able to enact this law? Who says that they are good enough to enact this law? So I thought maybe this would play in the dynamics, but it didn't really. It fell a bit short of that because I never understood where she drew the line with herself. She just found out she had powers, and then she was like, I'm a monster! And I was just like, damn bitch, can you stop with the dramatics? Come on, get with it. Everybody's a monster in this story. I will give it to Tessa that sometimes I did find it satisfying when she would yell at people and call them out for their bullshit, but she'd always revert back to her, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I was being too hard on people. Oh my gosh. Oh me, oh goodness. And she does this time and time again, and maybe it's just a personal flaw of hers. I mean, she does it with another character that I won't mention because it's a spoiler, and that turns out to backfire on her really big. So maybe that's just a personal flaw. I could let that pass, but I could not let it pass that she so happened to deem herself as a monster, yet she had no actions toward that really. It was just in the moment, she just sometimes wanted to be in her own pity party, and I didn't understand why. Maybe because Will wasn't all up on that, trying to tap it every 5 seconds? I don't know. She just seemed to really want people to pity her for that, and I wasn't about that. I was just like, bitch, get on with it. At least you ain't dead. Everybody else is dead. You ain't dead. Let's get to the external plot. So as I said earlier, this book took me like 3 weeks to get through. At first I thought because the book was extremely gothic, maybe that's what was putting me off because I'm not a huge fan of that. But as I was getting through the book, I realized that it had a lot to do with the pacing. As you know, with Victorian novels, there's usually a lot of description. It's very exposition heavy and very plot slow, and I thought that worked against Cassandra Clare in this instance. I mean, hell, there were at least 1,000 different quotes from 1,000 different books, and I was just like, look, I get it, they're in Victorian England, but do these people literally have to quote literature every 5 seconds? Like, I get it, they're supposed to be sophisticated, but they're not that smart, so let's just leave that for really powerful moments, not moments of like, oh, he reads, he must be my kind of man. Like, ugh, damn Tessa, damn Will, damn Jem, damn every character. Even though I had a problem with the external pacing, a lot of that had to do with the fact that the internal pacing was off. There wasn't a lot of internal growth or internal development between big external plot points. And so when you get through half the book and you're like a quarter of the way to the end and you look back, you almost feel like you haven't moved anywhere since page 1. You're supposed to be able to look back and be like, oh my God, how did we even get here? And everything is just crazy and all this shit's happened and wow. You're supposed to be mind blown, and I wasn't. I was just like, oh, okay, when these people just gonna kill somebody else? Just throw some blood on my face. That's what you do to excite me. Just do it. Speaking of, I thought the fight scenes were a bit confusing. Now, I don't know if it was just a personal thing that I had or if it was an actual problem with the writing, but I do think a lot of it had to do with there were so many names for all these magical weapons that they had, and I was just like, I don't give a fuck. Just kill somebody and let's keep moving. Also, Tessa seemed to really like stop in the middle of chaos and be able to see what everyone was doing at a specific time, and I was like, bitch, run! Or, you know, like, do something. Stop watching someone fight. Or there is a scene where there's lots of chaos in a small room. There's lots of smoke and there's lots of fighting. There's lots of gore. There's blood everywhere. And I was just like, this is literally a horror show. And this bitch is over here like, oh, look at my man over there doing that. Girl, you see him right there? That's my man. Oh, he killed that one. And I was just like, Tessa, stop. Like, you have other things to do. Also, Tessa, why don't you use your power to do something else? Or Tessa, why don't you change out of your power before somebody decides to kill your ass? Or Tessa, do something. Tessa. Like, I was just on this bitch like no tomorrow, because during those scenes, it really took me out of the fighting and out of the impact of it. And it just became a bloodbath. It became one of those scenes where you're watching all of the gore happen and you're really not affected by it, where I felt like I should have been. All these moments became forgettable for me. Finally, we hit one of the big main climactic points, and there's a lot of point of view shifting during that moment, and I understand the point of it. However, it really slowed the pacing down. It's like every time you make a movement somewhere, it stops and you start all over. Finally get tired of the journey, and by the time everything converges together, you really just are like, yo, can we make a stop so I can go pee, get some food, get some drinks, wash my face first so that I'm fresh and ready for all this. And so it didn't really hit me the way that it should have. And then the resolution after that left me feeling void, because again, we did not come back to the whole essence of what I thought this novel was going to be about, which is how these shadow hunters hold themselves up above everyone else, and everyone else is below that. And the characters talk about it a lot. Claire, damn, see, I did it again. Tessa comes into contact with Tessa comes into contact with this a lot, and I just really felt like she didn't question it. This really could have made a huge impact on this book. I just wanted to see her question that and really delve into it and delve into the issues on which side is the right side and all the complexities of that. I felt like this book had a lot of room for complexities that it just lacked. So therefore, I gave this a 4 to 5 because everything else was solid. I mean, point after point, like, you know, it's like reading one of Aesop's fairy tales. Just because it's simple as fuck doesn't mean that it's not constructed well. So it's a 4 out of 5. It just missed the mark. Let's move on to World. So as I said earlier, this book is a gothic novel wrapped up in another gothic novel with a whole bunch of other gothic novels in it. And that really killed me, but this is not my personal opinion here. Let's stick to the facts, right? So London was presented as very smog-ridden and gray, and I think that the descriptions sometimes were beautiful. However, it got to the point where I had a really hard time believing that this was London. It didn't have a lot of the cultural presence that I expected to see and that would have immersed me in it. it had a lot of stage presence, like a backyard school play set in London versus going to Broadway and it's set in London. Like one you're immersed in, the other one you're like, oh, good job, kids. Good job with your accents, kids. Good job, Jolio. Now, I really can't harp on that too much because obviously this is still her world because she does have the shadow hunters in it and stuff like that. It's just it wasn't melted together as well as like it would have been if it was set in the 21st century. I think a really good way to pinpoint this is to say it felt like, you know, Doctor Who's like TARDIS, is it called the TARDIS? Like, you know, it felt like they were living inside that, like the Institute was this place outside of the timeline continuum and they opened the door and, oh, it's Victorian London, let's go solve problems there. It did not feel like they were in Victorian London. Culturally, it just felt like they would visit and try to fit in as much as possible so as not to stand out, but they never actually belonged. So overall, I give that a 4 out of 5. I felt like it missed its mark. Maybe if there was enough reasoning, Jim kind of touches on it, whereas they're Shadowhunters first and then Nation and everything else after. But I really did feel like Jessamine could have brought that home, this whole feeling, because that's what she wanted to be a part of. But the storyline was so focused on that character just being seen as inferior to Tessa so that we would never question Will or Jim not liking her or something like that. It just focused so much on bringing her down that it left a lot of room open for development with her, and it just missed the mark. So overall, I give this novel a 4 out of 5 based on quality. It's constructed well enough. It's missing the marks here and there for the 3 main things, but overall, it makes it. As a personal and subjective rating, I give this like a 1 star. I just did not want to finish it. When I did get interested in it, the pacing would slow down, all sorts of crazy shit would happen. Tessa was bland as I was done with all these people. This just did not hit the mark. So let's talk about some recommendations, guys. So I would recommend this to people who love Cassandra Clare and want more of Jace, Clary, and Simon. Because that's what you're going to get with this, and you're going to be satisfied. You're going to like it. I would recommend this to people who love Victorian novels. Not because this fits well as a Victorian novel, but because there's so many Victorian novels in this novel. There are lots of quotes, there's lots of characters mentioning different ones, and that might be really exciting for you, and you might really enjoy it, and it's like a little Easter egg gold mine here and there. I would also recommend this to people who want to get into steampunk, but aren't necessarily sure that they'd like it. This has steampunk-esque kind of feelings about it, and it has a simple enough plot line that you don't feel like you're being beaten over the head with a lot of stuff that you're not familiar with. I would not recommend this to people who hate bland characters, because this will drive you fucking nuts. Damn, UPS, why you gotta beep your horn? Like, nobody ain't there. Come on, girl, you see I'm filming. I would not recommend this to people who want to see something different from Claire or want to have a different feel from her. Like, don't walk away. You'll be upset. You're going to be judging her, and you're going to be all mean and stuff like that. Just save yourself the time and the headache. You don't like wordy descriptions or tension that gets killed every 5 seconds? Pass. If you want to experience the real Victorian London, don't pick up this book. And last but not least, if you are offended by token characters, do not pick this up. Jim is half Chinese, and I really don't see it. But I really saw nothing of him culturally, especially in a time where culture is everything. Despite what he says about being Shadowhunter first and then ethnic second, I just feel like if you spent most of your time growing up in this place, you should have a lot of cultural differences, and you should see things differently, and maybe even have a different appreciation for things, or non-appreciation for other things. Also, Magnus Bane. He showed up for a short period of time in this book. The whole purpose of him was to open a door. After that, it was just to talk about how bisexual he is. Seems like a waste of a magician to me, if I can say so myself. So guys, that's it. I just want to do some really quick things afterwards. One, let me know, do you actually want a breakdown of this where I go into spoilery things, or is the review enough? I forgot to do the breakdown of the Raven Boys. It's on my computer, but I forgot to edit it. So if you guys do want breakdowns, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll start putting those back up. 2, I'm probably going to pick one of these 2 books, An Ember in the Ashes or Half Bad. I haven't decided yet. I do have Lady Midnight, Seraphina, and the Spirits and Thieves, but I just need a break from Cassandra Clare right now, and I'm not sure if I really feel like getting into a fantasy or something like a paranormal, urban kind of fantasy thing. So let me know down below which one you think I should do, and ultimately that will help me decide. Also, don't forget to do the giveaway. It's halfway through the month. I have some goodies for you, and next week I will have another writing video and one of these books up, so stay tuned. So as always, don't forget to subscribe. Leave some comments below down about what you think about the Clockwork Angel, and tweet me at Francine Simone with any questions or just some chit chats, funnyisms. Yeah, TTYL. Ta-ta for now. Bye. Bye.